Well, birds of a feather flock together. That said, let's look at a couple of morons that we want to put up for demonstration. Not everyone is smart. And that's including Governor Hogan from Maryland. Not too bright Republican there. And he thinks that wokeism and progressivism, that's ultimately what's going to be the problem for the future and the problem for Joe Biden. Let's take a listen to this moron.
The Democrats have been trying to make it all about Trump, and I think that's a mistake. I also think the Democrats, Joe Biden ran as a centrist, saying he was going to bring the country together. I think that's why he won. But he's, the kind of out of control wokeism and far left progressive caucus that almost screwed up the infrastructure bill, I think is going to hurt him.
Kellye, I want to ask you this question. As we have gone from $6 trillion on the infrastructure bill to $4 trillion on the infrastructure bill, now we're at, I think it was $1.95 trillion, barely enough to fill a pothole across the country. Do you think progressivism and even more importantly, wokeism, which is the new word for like blackness, do you think that's what the problem is?
No, I do not think that is the problem. I think that Republicans, you got to hand it to them. They know how to create some words that'll stick in the psyche of everybody's brain. And I'm afraid, but anticipate wokeism actually being a popular phrase. And I'm like already cringing at the thought of it. Because if you think about it, even Obamacare was coined by the Republicans at first. It was actually a derogatory term because they thought it was going to fail. And they just wanted to call it Obamacare, anticipating that it would fail. And then when it didn't, it stuck. But no, I do not think that progressivism or wokeism is going to be the fallout of the Democratic Party. What I do feel, though, however, is that, and I've been talking about this a lot, the fact that the Democratic Party's moniker of a big tent, I think that could be a downfall because there's a difference between being in a big tent and being in a chaotic marketplace. And right now, I feel like it's more chaotic marketplace than big tent. Because if you think about a big tent, you think of a circus, right? But even with all the happenings of what happens in a circus, there's order to it. There's structure to it. There's a sense of decorum and protocols and things like that. And everybody has a role in the circus. And nobody tries to do anything outside of the circus. But more importantly, there's a ringmaster in the circus. And we don't necessarily have that in the Democratic Party. If anything, we got three. We got Biden, Sinema, and Manchin, because that's how everybody's acting right now.
Hello?
Come on, somebody. Man, the synapses on this one they're firing, bro. You could just listen to it and they're just like, just like your brain is just lighting up. But you're saying something there.
It's waking up. That's what's happening.
I love it. The best part of waking up is Folgers. Well, anyway, if they didn't pay us a check yet. So, Kellye, you said something there that I think is critical. You said that it's not a big, you say it's a chaotic marketplace, not a big tent, because a big tent would suggest order, but a chaotic marketplace says chaos. Expound on the chaotic marketplace, would you?
Well, with progressives, Democrats, and anything underneath the Democratic Party, right? Because the Republicans have already streamlined that they are going to lean racist, it's like anything that is not Republican has to fall under the Democratic Party because of bicameralism in this country. So all the ideas that make up America, if it is not in line of white supremacy, racism, and bigotry, it's going to have to fall under the Democratic Party by way of how this system is structured. Because God forbid we have a third party that's actually viable. So what's happening right now with the Democratic Party, you have a lot of ideas and no one is the ringmaster to corral the ideas and actually streamline it. No one is getting in line in the Democratic Party, whereas on the Republican side of things, it's nothing but a straight line in the worst direction, but it's a line nonetheless.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that Britney Spears song? Three Ring Circus. What? Because
I know that song, Circus. I like that song.
Circus. Yeah.
I heard a jazz rendition of it. Blew my mind. The way you're outlining this, Kellye, is really, I think you cut to the pulse of it, right? You cut to the core of the situation, right? So it's like everything that's not bigoted, everything that is not racist, everything that is not 1776 pro white supremacist interpretation, pro Christopher Columbus, pro Western civilization, Alexander the Great was the, all these tropes that are being pushed by conservatism. Everything that's not that is now the enemy. And everything that is the enemy has to be ascribed to the Democrats, when the Democrats are really saying, no, we're not woke ourselves. Matter of fact, before we go there, what the hell? How are we even defining woke?
Black? Again, in the same vein as I was just talking about, like anything that is not bigoted, white, supremacist, or in the interest of white men is going to be considered woke. Even white women and white womanism to an extent would be considered wokeness, especially in Texas, given the bills that just passed. So when you, for me, when I hear wokeism, all I hear are dog whistles, right? When I hear wokeism, when I hear CRT, when I hear anything and it's unfortunate that when you hear pro-police now, that is now in itself a dog whistle. When you hear law and order now, that is considered a dog whistle. When you hear anything about, lowering taxes, unfortunately, even that could be considered a dog whistle. Housing and gentrification, all of these things that could benefit Black people if marketed and strategized correctly. It is all a dog whistle to basically keep us out of the American process.
So far, James, she's dropped the bicameral process, which forces us into a two-party system. And then she just dropped, she just dropped something else. Kellye, what don't you talk about? What's not your forte? You slid some economic policy in there. That's what it was. It was. You got to get that bag, huh?
It's not my bag. My bag is secure, but I work in the private sector in account management, like on the comm side of things, and it's billing week, and I'm over here like, you like me?
Yeah, I get it.
I'm such a creative personally.
I know. So sitting down and writing invoices is the
it's like, what is this chart thing? What is budget?
A budget.
Budget.
Like, tracking hours. You can't speed up or slow down the process.
Hey, we're gonna have to switch out. We're gonna have to switch out the Drake there, Bubba, because when he was like budget Drake, we got to put Kanye, because we got to talk about Kanye in a minute, because that brother needs some help. I want to play one last clip. It's not just Republicans who I be all over the place, but I never lose focus, because this next clip is where the Republican usage of wokeism is now bleeding over into the Democratic Party as a use for justification why they lost in Virginia this past week. So now the dog whistles, I would argue they have always been in the Democratic Party, but now the dog whistle of wokeism is being used. Here's a question being asked by Dana Bash. She's the one that's framing it, and she's asking the question, is wokeism a problem?
Improve. I want you to listen to what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say about what he thinks went wrong for Democrats.
What went wrong was just stupid wokeness. I mean, just defund the police, lunacy, just take Abraham Lincoln's name off of schools. I mean, that people see that. And it's just really have a suppressive effect all across the country. The Democrats, some of these people need to go to a woke detox center or something.
Are Democrats too woke, Senator?
Listen, I don't support defund the police. Matter of fact, I think you saw Democrats all around who were successful. The new mayor of New York, who you're going to have on, has talked about investing additionally in our police forces. Are there ways that we need to make that policing more community-based? Absolutely. The notion of what happened in Virginia, where there is not a school in Virginia that teaches critical race theory, but the governor-elect, Governor Youngkin, stirred up the cultural pot there.
Okay. All right. We had a lot of voices there. The first, you had Dana Bash, who's a CNN anchor. You had James Carville, who is a Democratic consultant, famous Democratic consultant. And then you had the last voice was that of Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. He was asked, Kellye, is the wokeism the problem? What are your thoughts about all this? Because I'm about tired of these folks, these white folks, to be honest with you.
Again, I'm tired of people taking terms that they don't understand and repurposing them. One thing that I always critique the Democratic Party about, and when I say the Democratic Party, I mean the powers that be that have, the wherewithal to, make decisions, like DNC type Democratic Party, not like, everyday people. One thing that the biggest critique that I have is their messaging, in that they have none. It's always they receive whatever messaging other people coin, and then they just kind of take it and run with it. And then the messaging that they come up with is like the dumbest thing ever. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, kudos to Biden for wanting
Build Back Better.
Yeah, right. Like, what? Like,
who came up with that?
Something like that.
Exactly.
Who says it like that? I don't understand that at all. But
Kellye, it went like this. Here's the story, Kellye. Kellye, he was sitting around the Oval Office, and the dog came running in, and he was like, "This is Joe Biden." Joe Biden is like, "I had a moment, and it spoke to me that we need to build back better." That's how they want to sell it.
But it still doesn't make any sense, because frankly, there are some spots in this country that need to be built, period. When you're talking about infrastructure, there are places in this country that do not have broadband at all. That needs to be built the first time, not back, and certainly not better, but the first time. So It's just one of those things where it's like, did you really think this through? Or are you trying so hard to not be a Republican mindset in that, their words cut? You know what I'm saying? Their catchphrase is cut. They get to the point. And if they do take something from the Democratic Party, they repurpose it to the point where it can cut, such as critical race theory, such as woke, such as defund the police. Like, I never liked the phrase defund the police because it did not make any sense, because not one time did they say get rid of police. It's really reallocating resources outside of the martial law of policing. So, and as someone who has family in law enforcement and even on the social work side, frankly, they need to come together a lot more than they typically do. And what's happening with that is, it's not like the resources aren't there. They're just not funded. So how about you just say not refund, but like fund that better, as opposed to build back.
Run us our check. How about that? Run us our money. Put the money in the community like you're supposed to. How about that? Because this is where we are, Kellye. You hitting the nail on the head. And you cut, see, your words cut too. They need to write you a check, because you said there's parts of this country that have never been built. There are parts of this country that have never been built, and they out here running with this Build Back Better and complaining about us saying defund the police. Come on, y'all. It's a little absurd. Kellye, listen, I want to have you come back anytime that you're available. I know it's an ungodly early morning, but would you come back?
I will wake up just for you guys. This was fun.
Hey.
No, we appreciate it. Tell everybody how they can get up with you and support your work.
Sure. KellyeCombs.com is my site, and you can follow me on all social platforms at Kellye Combs. So KellyeCombs. It's been a pleasure.